So one of the things I did while I was examining this with Professor Ofer and his assistant Neri Klein is I brought my Dynolite, that is the microscope, and here is a photograph of God's name, Yud He Vav He, and it has the full vowels, Shva, Cholam, Kamatz. And I wanted to verify that's really a Cholam, that it really is an O, and it's not just that it's not just I had a professor once who said, well, maybe there was a fly and they swatted the fly and it's not actually ink. Well, now we can tell. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to see the manuscript for myself. What we had were these black and white photos, and you really couldn't tell. Is that just a speck from the photocopy machine? They were photos that were, so here's what they did. They photographed it in black and white, and they produced a microfilm at the Institute of Microfilmed Hebrew Manuscripts. Then someone printed out using literally what sort of Xerox machine. They printed out the pages from the here. Let me close this for a second. They had the microfilm. Then they printed out the images from the microfilm, and then somebody scanned those images. Right? So there had been layers and layers of degradation, right? The photocopy machine on the drum has, dirt and stuff. And it's hard to tell, is that actually a vowel or is it dirt?
A speck of dirt.
Exactly. How can you tell? Well, here we have a here we have a microscope image taken with what's called a Dynolite. It's at about 50x magnification, actually probably closer to like 42x. And you can see this is actually ink. There's cracks in the ink, right? You can see that it's ink. And then here's another thing that you would never know from the black and white images is that this manuscript was re-inked, meaning as the ink would flake off, they would trace over the ink. And so, for example, you see here this letter Hey. So you see two different contours to the Hey, right? You see the original one underneath, and then you see the re-inker drew over that letter and covered over most of it. You can see that particularly in the Vav. Here's the original line underneath, and then the re-inker had more of a curvy Vav. The vowels haven't been re-inked. The vowels are original, and you can see here the Cholam of Yehovah. And the beautiful thing about the Dynolite is it has visible light, ultraviolet, and infrared. This is what it looks like in ultraviolet. Why is this important? Because first of all, you could see the ink of the re-inker looks different than the original ink. Yes. Right? It's a little bit darker in the infrared, had a slightly different chemical and elemental composition. It's what's called iron gall ink. There's two main types of ink, iron gall and carbon ink. Carbon ink looks completely different in infrared. And then here's an ultraviolet image. Ultraviolet doesn't really add much in this case. That's one of the things I was able to do is take these microscope images and verify that we're actually looking at ink here and determine at least whether it is the original ink of the vowels. Now, it's possible that somebody came along 500 years later and added that dot, but it wasn't the re-inker. That's what we can say, right?
Yes.
In order to determine whether that actually is the original ink or not, that I would need to use an X-ray device, which I didn't have access to. Hopefully in the future, God willing, I'll be able to do that. But for now, we could say it wasn't done by the re-inker, and there indeed is a cholam there in the name Yehovah.
Wow. Can I ask you a question? You said you were checking specifically for that dot, the cholam. Why didn't you also check the other two vowels, the shva and the kamatz?
So virtually every instance of God's name has the shva and the kamatz. What's missing in most instances is the cholam. And there aren't a lot of places in the Sassoon 1053, in the Sassoon Codex, where it has that cholam. The one that my friend Keith famously calls the cholam from heaven. The cholam from heaven.